All right, hello. This is Ristretto coming to you with a Monster Hunter post commentary where I've already recorded this hunt. It's from the Monster Hunter Wilds demo or beta, but I'm going to be commentating over it after the fact. I haven't done this before, but I wanted to share with you guys some thoughts about Monster Hunter Wilds and the demo, and so, yeah, hope you guys enjoy. This is going to be a hunt of Rey Dau with Insect Glaive. It's not going to be super flashy or anything, but hopefully it'll be some decent background footage. I didn't get a ton of time to play the beta this weekend. This is the first weekend of November 2024. It's the first beta for the game. But I did get to dip in and play some. After my first hour or so, I really wasn't sure what I felt about it, and I recorded some notes. I'm going to read these little notes verbatim to you because I think they give a good insight into like where I was at after that 45 minutes or so. So here are my notes. I like that the story starts out not incredibly grandiose. The visuals look dire as you get down to the lower settings on PC, especially with the upscaling tech turned on. Insect Glaive has some pretty different momentum to some of its combos and attacks. Giving it a way to spend its extract in exchange for damage is a big red flag. So that's where I was after my first 45 minutes. But after making those notes, I did play more of the game with Insect Glaive. I probably put maybe 4 or 5 hours total into the game. I fought each of the demo monsters. I did not play any other weapons. I was mostly focused on using Insect Glaive and trying to get comfortable with it. I did let my secret carry me around the map for a little bit. That's your new mount in Monster Hunter Wilds. I let the mount carry me around so I could sightsee. And I did try and tweak the graphical settings to make things look a little better, but to no avail. It does not run very well on my PC. If I end up playing the full game, I will I will not be playing it on this PC. I think a PS5 would actually run it better than this. So, oh well. In any case, we're going to start off by talking a little bit about the environment. So the environment we get to explore in this demo is the Windward Plains, and it's pretty neat. It's a little bigger than any of World or Rise's maps, or at least it certainly feels like that. And it finally feels like large enough that this, to me, feels like a real place where the different areas can be different and not feel so artificially like crammed together, or like they don't feel super artificially crammed together. There's enough space for the different areas to breathe and feel quite different. With the graphical settings on my PC how they are, I couldn't really tell if it's super beautiful or if there's tons of detail. Like, knowing the team that works on this and worked on World, where they put lots of little details into the environment, it probably is pretty detailed, but man, it's hard to tell when the game looks like this on my computer. Oh well. Let's see. Something I've already liked quite well is if you embark on a quest by kind of just riding out into the field and sighting a monster, when you fight it and you kill it, you don't get teleported back to your base. And so what that enables is it means you can kind of just go out on little hunting expeditions, not through free hunting or through a specific quest, but just you go out and you see what's there and you hunt it. When the quest ends, you don't get teleported back to base even unless you want to, I guess. So you can kind of just go out, hunt, finish the hunt, ride back to a camp, fuel up on items and have another meal and then keep hunting. And so to me that seems like it has the potential to be pretty immersive, where instead of just going out and loading in and out of a quest, you can actually have some agency to kind of just go back to camp, go out and hunt the monster, hunt several monsters. To me it feels a little bit more immersive. Even the fact that you might just be able to like ride your secret back to a camp feels potentially quite immersive to me. I'm somebody where when I played Zelda Breath of the Wild, I had all these like funny little routines that I did with Link, where I would I'd journey a little ways with him and then I would set up a little camp and cook a meal, and it was not necessary. That game is about saving Zelda. That game is about I don't know what that game's about, but the way I was playing it was maybe not 100% intentional, but the systems that the game had in place where you could like climb and make little campsites and cook things, like it enabled me to feel immersed and do my own thing. And this game seems like it has the potential to be the same way, where you can go off on these little hunting trips yourself, ride out into the map, gather things, sight a monster, hunt it, have the quest end, have it count as a quest, and head back to a camp, all without ever loading in or out. And to me that feels exciting. I don't know exactly what that will feel like if it feels at all like the Monster Hunter 4U Everwood expeditions, where you could go out and hunt kind of 5 monsters in a row and then come back. Like, that's the dream to me. I loved that system so much, in part because it was kind of random what monsters you'd get each time. So if there are areas in this game where you kind of have so many monsters that are able to appear that it feels like a random fun chance to go out and hunt a few each time, I think that'll be pretty neat. We'll have to wait for the full game for that though. As far as the actual mounts, you'll see me jump on the secret here to chase Rey Dau in a second. They're alright. These are kind of like a continuation from the Raider rides and Palamutes in the previous 2 games. Little rides or little mounts that will take you to where the monster is next. This map is large enough that I can see why that is a pretty good addition for a lot of players. A lot of players will not want to run all the way across this expansive map. I might, but most players won't. I didn't mind using it here in the demo. It's nice when you're trying to keep up with the monster and like keep up quickly. Maybe you're keeping up with the other players you're playing in multiplayer with. It's just kind of a nice little mount. It's not a bad thing at all. You can sharpen your weapon on it. You can take a break from the game real quick to get up and stretch. You can take a drink of tea. The secret will move automatically for you and take you to the monster. And so that can be kind of convenient. I was talking about this in a previous take of this recording where with Monster Hunter, where you play this game for like, I mean, hundreds of hours over a save file and like maybe sometimes many hours at a time, little breaks where you can stretch or take a drink, those are nice. And so having a little creature that will kind of take you to the next part of the fight while you take a break real quick, that's not all bad. I do wish, I think that with an open world this big, I wish that the movement on the secret, or the movement of the player even, was a little more complex and had a little more like, I don't know, interesting things to do as you go around the environment. I don't necessarily think something like wire bugs would make sense, which are the movement option for Monster Hunter Rise. But I do think that when you have a large open world, you can have a good game around it. Like, this is Monster Hunter. We want to focus on hunting the monsters. It's okay that they're not adding tons of mechanics that are like, now there's like all these like secret racing mechanics, like all this stuff. It's okay that they're not fleshing out a ton. It's okay that they're focusing on hunting the monsters. But I do feel like something that can take an open world in a game from being a pretty good open world and becoming a great one is if there's like movement mechanics that have some depth and some fun just to moving around the map. If you have a big space and it's fun to move around it, there's some depth and some expression to moving around it. To me, that's kind of always a plus. And it's all right if they don't actually have anything like that in this game. Like, it's about hunting monsters. Maybe they'll get it next time, but that's something I would like to see. If they're going to keep making bigger and bigger Monster Hunter maps, I want like some interesting mechanics or interesting ways to move around it that feel fun to me. Hopefully that'll be the case. The actual hunter himself, or in this case themselves, handles pretty differently. I was expecting them to feel basically just like Rise and World Hunters do, but they've actually tweaked the animations in some surprising ways. Part of this is they just look nice. Like especially when you sheath your weapon, the hunter really responds to the terrain that they're running across. They'll kind of go up a slope really naturally. They'll turn their head to face the monster. They'll kind of strafe with part of their body looking at the monster while they're kind of like walking left or right. Like, it's very realistic looking. It looks great. The animations have had a lot of really cool work done to them. And it actually does feel different, a little different to control the hunter as well. They feel like they have maybe a little slightly different momentum or a little different weight to them. And that could just be in the animations. For all I know, like, they could move at the exact same speed that they always have, but just feels a little different to control the hunter, and that was not exactly something I was expecting. Honestly, almost all of it feels like slightly different to control, except for the roll. The roll, thankfully, feels just like World and Rise. Feels like it has World's iframes. So it feels pretty similar in that way, I guess. One thing that does feel different in kind of a way is that there is a little bit less feedback when you hit the monster with your weapon. There's not quite as much hit stun or hit stop. I didn't notice this too much. It didn't feel like too much of a problem for me with Insect Glaive, but I have seen some footage of the other weapons, and it looks like all the weapons, when they hit the monster, there isn't a lot of like impact to when you hit in the way that some of the other weapons in some of the older games did have a lot of impact. They can tweak that. Might feel different depending on what equipment you have equipped. If you have a ton of damage coming out from your endgame gear, maybe there's some more hit stop. I do cart in this quest. I'm gonna spoil. We do finish the quest, but I do cart a couple times. This isn't meant to be like super pro footage. This was actually my first slay of Rey Dau. I'd tried him a couple times and I'd tripled out once or twice, and then this was my first time actually killing him. The feedback thing also applies to when you get hit by the monster. I don't know if maybe there'll be a good example of this later in the footage that I'm able to call out, but when you get knocked down, it doesn't feel like there's only one or two ways of getting knocked down. It feels like there's many variations on getting knocked down, and it can be kind of unpredictable, whether you know exactly when you're going to be actionable again, or how much invulnerability you're going to have, or like how quickly your hunter is going to move afterwards. It just feels a little funky, and with some time, that might feel more natural to me to understand, okay, I got knocked down by this attack, I have this much time to stay on the ground, or I'm not going to get knocked on the ground, so I got to start moving immediately. It just felt a little weird at first. Coming from the older games, it felt unpredictable, but maybe that will also change in time. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about Insect Glaive. So from my initial notes, you might have guessed that I wasn't totally sold on the changes, but with some more time, I've actually gotten used to it, and I do think it's in a pretty good place. So to quickly cover some of the changes with Insect Glaive, for one, you have a buffed moveset where when you collect the extracts with your bug from the monster, in the old games, it would only take red buff to get to your buffed moveset, where your weapon suddenly has the attacks you actually want to use. They deal more damage. In this game, it actually takes you getting all 3 red, white, and orange extracts from the monster. That would be a pretty big change, and except I'll get to in a minute here. There are some ways to keep your triple up, your all 3 extracts that actually make it not so much of an issue. It's just a change. Another one is that you can't bounce off the monster in midair. In the last 2 games, when you would attack the monster in midair, you kind of get popped back up, so you could do like aerial combos. In Rise especially, after bouncing off the monster a couple times, any attack you did after that was buffed, and so there was a way to kind of use it. Like you bounce a few times and set yourself up for a big buffed finisher attack, and that was kind of fun, but it's not in this game any longer. One more thing that changes is when you have your triple up, like when you have your buffed moveset, in the previous games, there's like a forward triangle little poke that starts some combos really nicely, and that attack is just like absent, which is kind of weird. And if you've been playing Insect Glaive for a long time, it feels really odd and clunky at first to be missing that, but there are ways around it. The rest of your buffed moveset is pretty similar to how it used to exist, and fits pretty well into the monster's movesets. I found like it fit into Rey Dau's movements pretty nicely. So not too much of an issue. I thought that was going to be kind of crazy and obnoxious, but it's not so bad. I don't know all the technical names for all those moves that got added or changed, so excuse me for that. One of the biggest changes, aside from those like changes to how Insect Glaive is played in the past, is that you can now charge up attacks. So there's this one specific attack, the one I just whiffed there, where if you hold down circle, it takes a second, but you charge up this kind of weighty, heavy attack with Insect Glaive, and it's multiple hits, but you can charge it up, and even from the air, you can charge it up, come down, and you do a little combo. It feels like it does almost as much damage as a normal Insect Glaive combo would do in kind of one attack. And it has some pretty heavy commitment to it, where it takes a few seconds, you get stuck in place for just a moment afterwards, so it does feel like you have to be careful when you throw it out. And the input for it is definitely very strange. Insect Glaive has never had something where you hold down a button to charge something up and then release it to attack. It's never really had an attack that's super long and committal. Like a couple of its attacks went on for a few seconds, but not really anything as long as this. I actually don't mind it. At first I thought I was gonna kind of hate it, because in the past I haven't really liked when Insect Glaive has longer attacks that kind of lock me in place, but it feels sort of good to be using your regular combos and then charge up an attack for a big opening and then let it go. Like, it feels nice to add Insect Glaive, or add a heavier attack like this, the one I just did there, to Insect Glaive. So I don't mind those charge attacks, and there's some nice input complexity that comes with it as well, where as you're comboing the monster with certain attacks, you can start holding down that circle while you're still doing your last attack. So if you're doing the marking attack, where you press R2 and you swipe your Insect Glaive and you mark the monster so the Insect can attack it, while you're doing that attack even, you can hold down circle and it will begin to charge up your stronger attack, and so that's kind of cool. In addition, you can jump up into the air and be charging attack in midair and then kind of slam down with a dive from midair with that charged attack, and so there's a little bit of expression, a little bit of complexity that comes with it. It's a neat attack. I don't mind that at all. What comes after it is the part I was a little bit concerned about in my initial notes, which is after you do that heavier charged attack, you can do a finisher, and that finisher spends all 3 of your extracts, your triple up. It does a good chunk of damage. It does take a pretty large opening to fit it all in, and it's not super safe. I got knocked out of it a fair number of times. How spammable or not it will be in the full game really comes down to like how aggressive are these monsters, how many openings do they have. I would say from the demo with these low rank movesets, or presumably low rank movesets, it feels kind of spammable. Like even on Rey Dau here, I get that finisher off just tons and tons and tons of times. You just saw me do it there, that big spinny tornado looking move, that's the finisher. So I don't know how I feel about that. That's something where, like, when you're still getting used to using it for the first time, like I am here in the demo, it can feel pretty satisfying to pull off, but sometimes weapons like that, where they have a finisher that you kind of charge up a resource for, you get your triple up, and then you do your finisher over and over and over, it can get kind of tedious after many, many hours, where like that is the main goal of your gameplay, is to just land that finisher as often as possible. So it did not feel like that to me in this demo. Felt like Rey Dau was aggressive enough and didn't give big enough openings, where most of the time I still had to rely on Insect Glaive's regular combos, and spacing those into Rey Dau's movements still felt satisfying, but then when he gave me some bigger openings, it felt fun to land those finishers. So that's nice. I'm hopeful it would still feel like that across many different monster movesets and across many hours of hunting, but we'll see. I guess the next thing I want to talk about, let me see, I don't want to miss anything in my notes here. I guess, here, I'll quickly say that from what I've seen with a lot of the weapon changes across the demo, like I said, I haven't played any other weapons, I've only played Insect Glaive, but a lot of them, it feels like they're not reworking the weapon entirely, they're just adding more and more moves on top of the weapon's sort of base moveset, which is how they've been handling the additions in World and Rise a lot of the time as well. And to me, that adds to complexity, it adds to input complexity, in kind of a rough way, where it means that some moves are overly incentivized, some moves are de-emphasized, where it feels like you've got all these moves and some of them don't have a whole lot of use a lot of the time. I wish they would be a little braver in terms of fully rebooting certain weapons and saying, we're going to throw out most of its old moves, we're going to rework all of its old moves for the sake of this new fresh flow. I know some people didn't like how Hunting Horn got reworked in Monster Hunter Rise, and I mean, like, I like old Hunting Horn too, but I thought it was very brave and good of them that they just kind of swung at it. They really remade Hunting Horn and Rise, and I don't know, I thought that was brave. I don't know if they do that with some of the weapons in this game, but so far from what I've seen, it looks like they've mostly added on complexity, so that's a little weird. Speaking of adding complexity, all the weapons have this new mode called Focus Mode, or Focus Attacks, where you can kind of hold down L2, and it'll pull up a reticle and kind of let you scan the monster almost for wounds. Wounds are sort of like this game's solution for tenderizing in Monster Hunter World, where instead of latching onto the monster and clutch clawing them and then weakening up a spot that you can then attack for extra damage, in this game, just by attacking a spot on a monster or by mounting the monster, you can create a wound. And a wound, as far as I know, will like take some extra damage when you're attacking it. That's all very nice, and I think that's well integrated into the game. Rather than having you stop and like latch onto the monster and then tenderize them up, just through the course of regular gameplay, you get these wounds. You'll see them on the monster as kind of glowing red spots. You may have noticed them as I'm playing here. And I think that fits a lot better into the game than tenderizing ever did. And so that's definitely an upgrade. That's a way of giving the player a way to kind of soften the monster up, deal extra damage, control the monster's hit zones a little bit, without necessarily having to stop the flow of gameplay for a minute. Wounds also have the ability to get hit by what are called focus attacks. So when you're holding down L2, especially with Insect Glaive, on the ground or in midair, you can do what's called a focus attack. And if it hits a wound, it'll kind of topple the monster over, or trip them, and it'll actually, with Insect Glaive, give you your triple up. So that's one of the ways you can keep your triple up at all. Most of the time is like if you hit a wound with a focus attack, it'll give your triple up back to you. You can actually do that even after the finisher. So like right after you've done the finisher, it pops you up in the air. If you hit a wound with a focus attack in midair, right after having done the finisher, you can get your triple up right back. So there's definitely a way to like loop that finisher if the monster is lenient enough, or if you're skilled enough, I suppose. Another thing you can do with focus is with Insect Glaive, you can kind of have your Kinsect do a piercing attack, where when you throw your bug out at the monster, it will pierce through several hit zones. Rey Dau kind of freaks out here. I thought he was going to shoot me through the ground, and then he kind of freezes, and I thought he was glitched for a second here. I was a little worried, but he comes back. It's okay. Here in just a second here, you'll see there's like a red glowing spot on his leg that I'm trying to hit, and I miss it. And in another minute here, I'll actually get that wound, and it'll pop. When you pop it, it trips the monster. I think that also feels better than wall banging the monster. Like if the Monster Hunter team is going to give the player ways to soften hit zones, and if they're going to give the player ways to kind of topple the monster every few minutes, I think it's better that it happens through you tripping them and like attacking a weak spot than you like taking them and pushing them into a wall and having them run into it all dopey looking. Like I think this is better than that. So I prefer this to clutch claw and wall bangs. I kind of wish they didn't have these mechanics in general, where I feel like they just add, I don't know, more instant gratification to the hunt in a way that I feel like is sort of cheapening, where because I have all these ways to constantly be tripping the monster and kind of getting big numba, it means that, I don't know, it kind of cheapens all the downs you get in a little bit of a way. So I don't know how I feel about those. That's just kind of endemic to modern Monster Hunter, honestly. So you get what you get what you do with the new games. But in any case, I think so far I do like how the wounding system works. It feels like it's better integrated into the flow of combat than, I don't know, the monster rides in Rise or the tenderization of wallbangs were in World. I am curious if speedruns, like there's a mechanic with the wounds where you can kind of keep attacking the wound to deal extra damage, or you can instantly pop it with a focus attack. And I'm curious to see in speedruns if speedrunners will often go for the extra damage from a wound before popping it, or if their goal will be to pop it and then land their big damage combo as frequently as possible. Feels like there's some depth there that I'm at least curious about. Maybe it'll end up being really straightforward and whatever. People just spamming finishers or big damage on the wounds. But I think it seems interesting, at least so far. For the monsters, they're also a little bit mixed. Like, I have some mixed thoughts about the whole wounds and tenderizing thing. The monsters are also a bit mixed for me. All of them don't really have that many strings of moves where you can kind of predict, okay, when he does this move, he's going to do another couple moves to follow up, or like he always moves in this way. They feel a little bit more random, which is kind of more similar to how Monster Hunter World's monsters felt than Monster Hunter Rise's monsters. I don't really like that so much, where a lot of the time it feels like they have a random pool of moves they can choose from at all times, and you just kind of are left guessing really minute differences in visual tells in order to know what's going to happen. And even if like the monster knocks you down, they're not going to finish up with it. They're not going to finish or follow up on you with a specific combo each time. You're left sort of guessing. And when you're left guessing, it makes the game a little bit more reactive or reaction-based and a little bit less about predicting and kind of positioning, which are things I think Monster Hunter is best when it has a healthy dose of. So, I don't know. I'm not in love with the monster moveset so far. Chalacabra was a bit too easy. I think as they have him in this demo, it feels like he's supposed to be like this game's Drome or this game's Great Jagras, and I don't know. He's fine for that if that's what he is, but if he's meant to be more complex than that, then uh-oh, he's a little too silly, a little too easy. He is not Tattoo Cabra. But I do like his design. Cute frog. He's nice in that way. Doshiguma, I didn't really like that much in general. I thought his design was a bit bland, and he was sort of the worst offender in terms of just throwing out random moves that all looked kind of similar, or like the moves didn't have the telegraph that would suggest to me what they were about to do. Just didn't enjoy that hunt all that much. I only did it once, so there's room for improvement with me recognizing his moves and like fighting him better, but I didn't enjoy him all that much. I thought Balahara was quite neat. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's neat, and it's been a while since we've had like an early game Leviathan, and I like his moves. I like the way he burrows around. I like his projectiles. I like the way he stabs you with his tail. I also think his design is kind of weird and out there, which, I don't know, you could think was kind of off, but I kind of like it. I feel like so far from what we've seen of this game in trailers, the monster designs are pretty out there, and that's kind of fun to see. Rey Dau, as you can see from this hunt footage, is a pretty cool monster. I like his sound design. His moves are pretty good. He's just a solid flying wyvern. I don't know, I like his fight quite a bit. I like the way he goes up in the air and comes at you with his wing. He didn't feel like overly threatening to me once I got used to some of his moves, but I thought he was quite good. I enjoyed his hunt. In this last area here, some of his attacks get like added explosions from like the little crystals that are in this area, and I kind of wish that more of the hunt had sort of aftershock explosions like that, so I had to be more careful how I was positioning and hitting him. Maybe in high rank or G rank we'll see some things like that. But yeah, overall, I like the monsters okay. I'm curious to see what more of them are like, and if they get more strings of attacks. I loved how Rise's monsters were designed in terms of not their visuals, but the way their moves and their kits worked and functioned overall. Like I liked how their monsters were designed. So hopefully we'll see some of that trickle into this game's DNA as well. I didn't try out any pack hunts where like there are multiple monsters that hunt in a pack. In the older games, when you did like multi-monster hunts and you actually hunted with multiple monsters in the same area, it was kind of sadistic, so I'm curious to see how they'll make that feel in this game. Yeah, right here, I think I was stunned, or if that was a guaranteed follow-up or something. This was one of the examples where I wasn't really sure why I wasn't able to move there. It just kind of felt unpredictable. So, I don't know. Something I'm curious about the multi-monster thing is, will they have the AI take turns? Like, if you have two Doshiguma that you're fighting, will the first one attack, and then the next one attack, and then the next one attack, or will they all try and attack you at the same time? Some boss fights in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice had, like, AI taking turns like that. And it actually worked pretty well. So I'm curious to see if they'll do anything like that. I didn't try it in the demo, so I'm still curious about that. The cooking you can do from camps is pretty delightful. You're actually able to like pitch your own camp around the map. I don't know if you can do it everywhere, but the fact that you can do that is pretty cozy. I actually quite like it. So I like the cooking. I'm hoping you can kind of go out into the map and gather your own ingredients, and there isn't too much where you just get it from a farm or you automatically have the ingredients unlocked. Like I was talking about earlier, I like the idea of being able to kind of immerse yourself and go out into the map and gather things and kind of live like a hunter, and foraging for your own meals and like the best kind of ingredients for your food. That just sounds so immersive and cool to me. I hope there's a good reason to do that. I'm a little mixed on the game's visuals overall. Like this is kind of tough for me to say, but like I kind of have a chip on my shoulder about Monster Hunter World where it never clicked with me. I tried to enjoy it many times, and I did enjoy my first playthrough of it, but I just was never able to sink into it the same way I have done with many other Monster Hunter games. And so like with this game, I feel like it's so clearly like an acorn falling not far from World's tree, where like the monster designs, the world design, lots of choices remind me of Monster Hunter World, and I feel like I'm kind of bristling at it just by association, which isn't really fair. It's a different game. There isn't necessarily all the same people working on it. But I do kind of feel like that, where I'm like, I don't know. It reminds me of that game that didn't click with me that well, so I don't click with this one that well either. But I was giving it a fair shot, and I did have fun with the demo. Like, I don't know. I think it's a pretty great demo overall. It didn't run for me very well. My PC isn't super strong, so I was able to get it to run at like 1080p 30 with the upscaling tech, but not much more. It's actually quite an excellent demo, though. You get a little bit of story, you get a little bit of tutorialization, and it drops you into like this full-on environment where you can go out and hunt the monsters, you can gather things, you can take on quests. It's just pretty great. So I think this is probably the best demo they've ever done. I wish it wasn't timed, but aside from that, it's pretty awesome. We're coming to the close of the hunt, and I guess that's most of my thoughts. The last couple times I tried to record this, I rushed through too quickly, and I didn't get all the thoughts, so I'm glad I'm finishing a little early here. I had fun hunting Rey Dau. I like this final area. But, yeah. If I forgot some stuff, maybe I'll include it in the description or the comments, but I hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts on the demo, enjoyed a little bit of scuffed Rey Dau hunting, Play-Doh level graphic hunting. Maybe I'll have more hunts for you, or more hunts and thoughts from Monster Hunter Wilds for you guys in the future. Maybe not. We'll see. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna leave you guys with the end of the hunt here. Hope you guys enjoyed the demo if you played it. It's always better to enjoy Monster Hunter for what it is and have fun than to like nitpick it apart. So I hope you enjoy Wilds. I hope you enjoy whatever Monster Hunter you're playing. Cheers. Happy hunting, y'all. Bye-bye.